Hello, my cats, and welcome back to the Cozy Den. We are continuing with the ancient tales of the Dwemer today with part 10 of the Dowry. So grab yourself a tankard of mead and pull up a bench by the fire. Inalay was the wealthiest landowner in Gunau, and he had, over the years, saved a tremendous dowry for the man who would marry his daughter, Jennifer. When she reached the age of consent, he locked away the gold for safekeeping and announced his intention to have her marry. She was a comely lass, a scholar, a great athlete, but dour and brooding in aspect. This personality defect did not bother her potential suitors any more than her positive traits impressed them. Every man knew the tremendous wealth that would be his as the husband of Jennifer and son-in-law of Inalay. That alone was enough for hundreds to come to Gunau to pay court. "The man who will marry my daughter," said Inalay to the assembled, "must not be doing so purely of avarice. He must demonstrate his own wealth to my satisfaction." This simple pronouncement removed the vast majority of the suitors, who knew they could not impress the landowner with their meager fortunes. A few dozen did come forward within a few days, clad in fine killark cloth of spun silver, accompanied by exotic servants, travelling in magnificent carriages. Of all who came, who met with Inalay's approval, none arrived in a more resplendent fashion than Welin Neyrelik, the young man, who no one had ever heard of, arrived in a shining ebon coach drawn by a team of dragons, his clothing of rarest manufacture, and accompanied by an army of the most fantastical servants any of Gunau had ever seen. Valets with eyes on all sides of their heads, maid servants that seemed cast in gemstones. But such was not enough with Inalay. "The man who marries my daughter must prove himself an intelligent fellow, for I would not have an ignoramus as a son-in-law and business partner," he declared. This eliminated a large part of the wealthy suitors, who, through their lives of luxury, had never needed to think very much of it at all. Some still came forward over the next few days, demonstrating their wit and learning, quoting the great sages of the past and offering their philosophies of metaphysics and alchemy. Welin Neyrelik too came along and asked Inalay to dine at the villa he had rented outside of Gunau. There, the landowner saw scores of scribes working on translations of Aldmeri tracts, and enjoyed the young man's somewhat irreverent but intriguing intelligence. Nevertheless, Though he was much impressed with Welin Neyralik, Inalay had another challenge. "I love my daughter very much," said Inalay, "and I hope that the man who marries her will make her happy as well. Should any of you make her smile, she and the great dowry are yours." The suitors lined up for days, singing her songs, proclaiming their devotion, describing her beauty in the most poetic terms. Jennifer merely glared at all with a hatred and melancholia. Inalay, who stood by her side, began to despair at last. His daughter's suitors were failing to a man at this task. Finally, Welin Neyralik came to the chamber. "I will make your daughter smile, he said. "I dare say I'll make her laugh, but only after you've agreed to marry us. If she is not delighted within 1 hour of our engagement, the wedding can be called off." Inalay turned to his daughter. She was not smiling, but her eyes had sparkled with some morbid curiosity in this man. As no other suitor had even registered that for her, he agreed. "The dowry is naturally not to be paid till after you've wed," said Inalay. "Being engaged is not enough." "Might I see the dowry still?" asked Welling. Knowing how fabled the treasure was and understanding that this would likely be the closest the young man would ever come to possessing it, Inalay agreed. He had grown quite fond of Welin. On his orders, Welin, Inalay, Glumganefra, and the Castellan delved deep into the stronghold of Gunau. The first vault had to be opened by touching a series of runic symbols. Should one of the marks be mispressed, a volley of poisoned arrows would have struck the thief. Inalay was particularly proud of the next level of security. A lock composed of blades with 18 tumblers required 3 keys to be turned simultaneously to allow entry. The blades were designed to eviscerate any who merely picked one of the locks. Finally, they reached the storeroom. It was entirely empty. "By Lorcan, we've been burgled!" cried Inalay. "But how? Who could have done this?" "A humble but, if I may say so, rather talented burglar," said Wailing. "A man who has loved your daughter from afar for many years, but did not possess the glamour or the learning to impress. That is, until the gold from her dowry afforded me the opportunity." "You?" bellowed Inalay, scarcely able to believe it. Then something even more unbelievable happened. Jennifer began to smile. She had never even dreamed of meeting anyone like this thief. She threw herself into his arms before her father's outraged eyes. after a moment, Inalay too began to laugh. Genevra and Welling were married in a month's time. Though he was in fact quite poor and had little scholarship, Inalay was amazed how much his wealth increased with such a son-in-law and business partner. He only made certain never to ask from whence came the excess gold. And of course, another note from the publisher. The tale of a man trying to win the hand of a maiden whose father, usually a wealthy man or a king, tests each suitor is quite common. See, for instance, the most recent 4 Suitors of Benitar by Jole Yelives. The behavior of the characters is quite out of character for the Dwemer. No one today knows their marriage customs, or even if they had marriage at all. One rather odd theory of the disappearance of the dwarves came from this and a few other tales of Marabarsal. It was proposed that the Dwemer never, in fact, left. They did not depart Nirn, much less the continent of Tamriel. And they are still among us, disguised. These scholars use the story of Azura and the box to suggest that the Dwemer feared Azura, a being they could neither understand nor control, as they adopted the dress and fine manner of Chima and Aldma in order to hide from Azura's gaze. And there you have it, everyone. An interesting tale and certainly a very intriguing theory on their disappearance which follows. But that is all for us for today now, so until next time, everyone, stay cozy.